Welcome to the podcast, Let the Prophet Speak. Today we continue our study of the Sefer Kohelet, the book of Ecclesiastes. We today are about to study chapter 12, which is the final chapter of this book. This book that has provoked and stimulated thought for centuries, and certainly in my life while studying this book, definitely made me think a lot about the meaning in the life that I lead every day. And I hope some of you or all of you who have been participating have had similar experiences. The last chapter, of course, does not disappoint. In some ways, it is the most famous of all the chapters, but regardless, this is something that leaves us with thoughts to ponder for the rest of our lives. At the end of chapter 11, he mentioned the importance of enjoying our youth, right? Appreciating the days when we have the strength and the power and the vigor and the energy to accomplish and achieve all kinds of things. And again, similar to what we've had before, where he mentions the importance of enjoying the time, he tempers that by saying, but, yes, enjoy your youth, but remember, uzuchar et borecha, remember your Creator, remember He that created you, bimei bechurosecha, during the days of your youth. It is crucial to understand, really, remembering our Creator is really the probably one of the, if not the most fundamental ideas in Judaism that's being taught by Tanakh in general, by the Nevi'im, by the prophets, and the later philosophers, especially Maimonides, but many, who emphasize that the bottom line is understanding that the world has a creator reminds us that our lives do have a purpose. Exactly what that purpose is, exactly how we fulfill that purpose, that's a much more complicated question. But just the very fact that there is a purpose, if the world was not created, but it just simply exists because of the laws of nature and science that dictate that it should exist, then there's no purpose. But if it was created by a being, then there's a reason why it was done. And again, without answering what that reason is, just understanding that makes us think about our lives. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Or should I do something else? Should I act in a different way? So Zuchor et Borecha, just simply remember your Creator. And remember it ad asher lo yavo'u yemei hara'ah, before the days of Ra'ah. Now, Ra'ah, again, as I've said many times in this book so far, literal translation is the days of bad or evil, right? But it doesn't mean that so much in this context. It means the days of darkness, the days of lack of understanding, the days where we don't understand or comprehend or have any wisdom to navigate those days. We have no way of understanding why. The days in which we see things that don't make sense to us, that we can't figure out why. The big question, the capital W question of why. V'higiu shonim asher tomar, and the years will come when you are going to say, Ein li vo'em chefetz, I do not want these days, I do not like these days. These are the days of injustice, the days where, and in this case, the contrast is to the days of your youth. So you're thinking of the days when you have all of the skill, all of the knowledge, everything that you've achieved in your life, everything you now have, all of the experience, but you don't have the strength, you don't have the health to accomplish or achieve it, and it doesn't make sense. One might think that when one gets out of those years of your youth, now you've had a long life behind you where you've lived through ups and downs, successes and failures, good and bad. Now's the time when you should have the strength to use that knowledge, and now is precisely the time when you do not have that strength anymore. Ad asher lo techshach hashemesh v'ya'ar. Before the sun and the light, remember the sun and the light was the sun of knowledge, the sun which shines and says, okay, I understand this works, this makes sense. Everything's are going right. They're going the way they seem to be, the way they should, right? But before those days of darkness, and the moon and the stars, all of those celestial bodies that bring light into our lives, and the and the um and the clouds are already coming back after the rain. In other words, we think there's rain, there's darkness, there's clouds, and then the sun comes out, but then the clouds come back. So remember your Creator during those days when things are going well. How many times do we only cry to God? How many times do we only think deeply about our purpose and our reason for existence when things are going bad? How many times do we only complain when things don't make sense to us? When things don't go the way that we think they should? Then all of a sudden we start thinking about God. We start thinking about our purpose. We start reevaluating our path in life. How many times do we do that when everything is going well? When you get the good job, when you have money in your bank account, when you have a car that works and runs, when you have relationships that are working and running, how often do we think then about our Creator, about our purpose? Bayom sheyozu'u shomer habayis, and the day when because and then in these next two verses he describes almost like I feel like the image of a ghost town, towns of boom and bust. The railroad comes in, there's boom, there's a couple of years where there's businesses and people and families and schools and hustle and bustle, and everything's moving, going, coming. There's business deals being made, bank loans being made, a building and all kinds of things, and then the railroad leaves and it becomes a ghost town, right? Biyom sheyazu'u shomrei habayis. The day will come. Remember when the sun and the light and the moon are not giving light anymore. The clouds are back. The guardians of the house um, are now shaky. In other words, they're not reliable. There's nobody around. All of those things, the locks on the doors, the uh, the closed windows aren't working anymore. They're not closing well. The hit avsu anshe hachoyel. The wealthy men are twisted and gone. They've lost their wealth. They've lost their vigor. Uvatlu hatochanos. And the women who are grinding grain, that is a symbol of a thriving society in those days. When you have women, typically this job was done by women, grinding grain for food so everyone can eat. Kimietu, because there's very few of them left. There's only a couple of old women still grinding a few little bits of grain for the few little people that are left in town. But everyone else is gone. V'chashvu horo'os ba'arubos. And the women who are looking through the windows are gone. The windows are darkened. There's no longer people, looking outside to see what's happening in the street. Verse 4, V'sugru d'losayim bashuk. And the doors that opened to the marketplace are closed. You go to all the stores and all the businesses are shut down, boarded up. Bishval kol hatachana, when the noise of the mill that was grinding the grain to feed the town is dampened, is less. V'yakum l'kol hatzipar, and all of the only thing waking up the town is the sound of the bird. V'yishachu kol bnos hashir, and all of those the people that were singing song are dying down. There used to be, in the bars and the clubs, there's music playing, and all that music is dying down. There's one old club where they might have music, one night a month. That and they're not bringing in the big names anymore. There's just one or two guys playing a couple instruments, and that's all that's left. So that time is going to come. So now, when you have the strength, that's the image of us at the end of our lives, but also this is the ebb and flow of history. At those times when you're flying high are specifically those times when you really need to think about your purpose and do it right, because you're not going to always be that way. There's going to be a down. It's going to happen. Gam mi gavoa yira'u v'chatchatim baderech, right? Um, Even those that are high up, right? Those that the wealthy ones, the guy living in the mansion just out of town that overlooks the city, that looks from up high, right? They are also afraid. They used to be wealthy, but they depended on the town, right? But they're afraid of the bad times that have befallen. And they are scared and afraid on the road. The Yonetz Hashoked, and all that's happening now in this ghost town is the is nature is taking over. The almond tree is starting to sprout throughout the town. V'yistabel hechagov, and the grasshopper, right, is now carrying his load. V'tofer ha'aviona, and the aviona is a caper bush, is starting to bud again. In other words, thinking of the image that I have in mind, of course, is tumbleweed flowing through the town. But that's the same image that Kohelet is laying out over here with the Middle Eastern twist. The caper bush is starting to grow. Adam el beit olamo, because the human being is going to his final resting place. V'savavu vashuk hasoftim, and those that are mourning him, those that are lamenting his death, are now surrounding his body in the marketplace. Because in the end, this is where we all go, right? This is Kohelet has been reminding us throughout this book that there is an end to all of this. There's going to be a time when we don't have the strength and ability to do the things that we want to, that we think are important, that we enjoy. So enjoy it now. Do it right now. And remember that there is a purpose. Remember there is a creator. Ad asher, this is verse 6, lo yerotek chevel hakesef, right? Before the silver, the chevel, the rope, which is fashioned of silver. Kesef means silver. It also means money, right? So before the chevel, the rope of money, the rope is something that gives support, that ties things up, that keeps things together, right? There's going to be a time when money is going to be gone. It's not going to help you anymore, right? V'torutz gulas hazahav, and the golden bowls and golden cups that we have are going to be smashed. All those things that we enjoy, those pleasures, those riches, that wealth, at some point is not going to help us. V'tishover kad al hamabua, and the pitcher with which we gather water from the spring is going to just break, and we won't be able to gather that water anymore. V'nerotz hagalgal alabar, and um, the galgal, the wheel, will just flow right into the pit. Um, will it will just run right into the pit, and we won't even have that wheel anymore, right? That wheel that carried us, that wheel that helped us accomplish and achieve all of those tasks in life. Via shov ha'afar ala aretz kishahaya, and what will be in the end? Dirt will just cover over this ghost town on the land, right? Just like it was in the beginning, before all the hustle and bustle, before the railroad, so to speak, came to town, and all of the people in business came. It was just dirt with caper bushes and grasshoppers and almond trees. V'haruach tashuv, and the spirit will go back, El Elohim Asher Nisana, back to the God who gave the spirit in the first place. That spirit that enlivened us, that gave us life, will go back to its source. Havel havolim amar hakoheles hakol havel. Again, this is reminding us of how he started this book. This is all havel havolim. This is all transient. This is all temporary. This comes and goes, just like breath, just like air. We breathe in, we breathe out. Life has its days of strength, its days where we enjoy our money, we enjoy our wealth, we enjoy our abilities, we enjoy everything, and then it goes, it ends, it goes away. So what was the key? Zechor borecha, remember your creator, remember there's a purpose. Do it with wisdom, right? He told you, right? It's better to live those few moments with wisdom and do it right, right? right? Shalech lach mochal b'nei hamayim, right? Send out your bread over all the water, because what goes around comes around. Do the right thing. Verse 9, V'yoser shahaya kohelet chacham. He has a few observations about himself as he concludes these last final few verses. More than Kohelet was a wise person, right? It was more than just that he was a wise person, right? He's talking about himself in the third person, right? He was not just a wise man, meaning that he understood these things and sat on a mountaintop. Odlima das esam. He taught this knowledge to the people. Kohelet didn't just have these wise words, right, and think them to himself and contemplate in the woods in his cabin, right, but he said it and he taught it to people so that they could find meaning in their lives. V'izain, and he listened. V'chiker, and he researched. He didn't just have this observation, but he came to this observation by listening to people around him and doing the necessary research and learning and studying in order to understand this. Tikein mishalim harbe, and through this learning and through this listening to others and through teaching, through those three things, by engaging with other people around him. This is very key to the religion of Judaism. Some of the most basic ideas. Zechor borecho, remember there is a purpose to our lives. Remember that the way of fulfilling this purpose is by interaction with people. Um, we do not recommend living in a monastery on a mountaintop. That is not how this works, right? This works by limadasasam, by teaching, sharing with others. It always boils down to sharing with others, izain, and listening to them, and doing the proper research. In other words, reading, understanding, talking to people, experimenting, etc., in order to tikein mishalim harbe, in order to prepare and write many parables with which to help teach. Bikesh Kohelet limtzo divrei chayfetz. And not only that, but he wanted to find things that are important, that are useful, that are desirable. Not just things that people can learn from, things that people can use. V'chasuv yosher divrei emes, and then to write down proper, straight, true things that are truth, the pursuit of ultimate truth. That's the bottom line, right? Divrei chachamim kedarvonos. The truth is that once you do this research, once you study, once you learn, once you interact with people, once you experiment, once you come up with understanding of the world around you, and you start to teach it to others, then those words, the words of a wise man, become like darvonos. A darvon is a instrument used to guide an animal in the right path. It's like a stick that you hit the animal on the side to make sure they go straight. And it's like the nails that are planted in the goading sticks or prodding sticks that are used again to encourage an animal to go in the right direction. So they do cause a little pain, but they make sure the animal goes the way it's supposed to go, in a straight and purposeful direction, rather than just wander lost. So words of wisdom do that for people. They sometimes hurt, but they help push us and keep us on the right path. And they are similar. The words of a wise man are similar to these instruments when they are coming from roa echad, from one shepherd. This is going back on the first thing, like remember your creator, that one creator, the idea that there is one singular source and goal that guides this world. The purpose is all part of one giant system. It is not a pagan system of 50 different gods competing, this one doing this and the other one doing that and the other one doing the other thing. But there is one coherent purpose and system to the world around us. So learn, so study, so read, interact with others, and ozen, listen to others, listen to them in order to be Yosher Divrei Emes, in order to find the truth. Some of the guidance here is timeless and important. The idea of monotheism, of Nitnu Me'rohe Echad, that everything is given, right, from one shepherd, right, is crucial to the idea of finding Yosher Divrei Emes, of finding truth in the world. The idea that there are unifying principles that unite the world around us are the crucial ideas that drives innovations in all learning and all science. The concept that there is a rule that runs it all. There are laws that govern the world around us because there is a creator, one creator, who set it all on the right path. These are very crucial ideas and very basic ideas to our religion. So keep these in mind. V'yoser mehema b'ni. And even more than this, my son, he's a be very careful, right? Don't just take this knowledge for yourself. There is no point. Again, Kohelet, we find this throughout Tanakh, throughout the words of the prophets. There is no value or very limited value in keeping this to yourself. Asos sifarim harbe ein kates. Write books. Teach others. When you learn something, when you know something, the point of that knowledge is to pass it on so that others can learn from you. Gaining knowledge for yourself is useless. Harve ein kates. There is no limit, right, to the learning that people can do, to the studying, to the advancement that we can gain. There is no limit. The bottom line is wisdom. V'lahag harbe yigias bazar. And there is um when studying, so much study, more and more and more study is something that exhausts the soul, right? It gets it's the and it's tiring, but it's important, but it's crucial because that's the point. Gaining this kind of wisdom and teaching the world this wisdom is the bottom line. Sof Davar, at the end of it all, Hakol Nishma, everything is heard, right? There is a creator. He knows and understands and sees everything that is happening. And therefore, right, on your search for unity, on your search for those laws that govern the universe, on your search for wisdom and true Yosher Divrei Emes, true real understanding, which comes through listening, ozen, listening to others, which comes through teaching others and interacting with others. It comes through writing books and sharing those ideas and helping people go in the right direction. In the end of the story, what's going to be as everything is known, everything is going towards a purpose, a direction. We may not understand it or see it, right? As we go on, as everything is hevel, everything is transient, we go on to the next world, right? We may never see or understand fully the plan, but sof davar hakol nishma, everything is heard by God. As Elohim yirah, we should fear and have awe for God. V'es mitzvosav shemar, and His commandments, we should be careful to keep them. Ki zeh kol ha'adam, because that is the bottom line purpose of man, to do this. Ki es kol ma'aseho Elohim, all of the actions of God, yovei v'mishpat al kol ne'elam, right? They will all come to account. They will all be considered when God makes His judgment over everything that is hidden from us. There's so much that we see, but there is so much more that we don't see. In Tov Yimra, whether it is good, whether it is bad, all of these things will be ultimately judged by God. They will all come to justice because that there is a creator, there is a purpose, and somehow this world, based on what we do and how we act and how we live our lives and whether or not we live it with wisdom and emes and truth, if we do that, then maybe, just maybe, it will be more tov than ra. We will fulfill the purpose of this world. And so ends the book of Kohelet. Thank you so much for studying the book of Kohelet with me. Looking forward to studying future books. I haven't yet decided what we're going to study next. So far in this series, I have the books of Eicha, that is Lamentations, the books of Shir Hashirim, that is Song of Songs, the book of Mishlei, that is Proverbs, and the book of Tehillim, which is Psalms. I'm not sure which one I'm going to do next, because at this time of year when I'm teaching this right now, it is the month of Av. We just passed the days commemorating the morning of the destruction of the temple. That just recently, strongly considering doing Lamentations next, which is not exactly the most exciting book, but still a very important one from which we learn so much. But in the next few days, I'm going to decide whether I do that or one of the others that I just mentioned. But there's definitely a lot more to come. I appreciate your participation, and I wish everyone a wonderful, wonderful day.